All right, everybody, thank you so much. Great to be here. My name is Brooke Rollins. I have the incredible honor of serving as the 33rd Secretary of Agriculture, my 5th trip to Iowa, my 2nd Iowa State Fair. Last year, this exact time, I was actually showing a steer in the Governor's Steer Show. So we just finished a roundtable back where we auctioned that steer off last year. So it's very special to be back. I miss the young lady, the young FFAer I showed with. Her name was Chandler Ludwig. We have continued to stay in touch. We showed her beautiful steer Snoop Dogg, and it was very special. So again, what a joy to be back here at the Iowa State Fair, a tradition that dates to 1854, attracting well over 1 million visitors a year here in the extraordinary state of Iowa, the second largest ag producing state in America. We just wrapped a really great roundtable with Iowa farmers and elected officials where we had a chance to hear directly from producers on how our U.S. Department of Agriculture and all of us in government can better serve their needs. And one request we hear over and over, and one of the key purposes of me being here today, was the importance of modernizing our data collection, analysis, and reporting. That over a number of years, our farmers have lost faith in USDA's data collection and reporting, and that we have to do better for our ag producers. Every year, USDA publishes hundreds of reports that producers rely on to make informed decisions about their operations. And while we are proud of that data, the reality is that our survey response rates have been declining for decades, in part because they are burdensome for our farmers to navigate. Reversing this decline and restoring producer confidence is essential to ensuring USDA continues to put out the best data possible, which we will do by modernizing the way we get collected and increasing our response rates. Over the past 18 months, we have moved very quickly to modernize most of USDA, our One Farmer, One File, which has allowed us to move out bridge payments to our farmers instead of in weeks and months, in a matter of days. In fact, last year, in our last payment cycle, the bridge program, we moved 57,000 payments out in 3 days. It would normally have taken us months to get that many out, but our One Farmer, One File program is working. The opportunity to now bring the data modernization through our NAS reports, et cetera, has never been better, and we will be doing so. I'll be back in 2 weeks at the Farm Progress Show here in Iowa to roll that program out. So very excited about that. Very grateful to the farmers who joined us today for that listening session. And as you all know, we have been battling around every corner to reverse the trend and to move back towards profitability for our farmers and ranchers. We're now up to 20 new trade deals under this administration, cutting the projected agricultural trade deficit by more than 50% in just 1 year, setting record agricultural exports in key markets around the world and for key commodities. Ethanol exports are up 11% year over year, and corn exports, important for, I know, this great state, will be up and will break all records this year with a 35% increase in exports. That doesn't even include the expansion of the domestic market through biofuels, et cetera. So we're really grateful for that. Of course, no state is bigger when it comes to biofuels than this state. And we have worked so hard, and I will say on record, I don't believe there's ever been a president who's been more supportive of biofuels than President Trump. From announcing the highest RVOs in history of the renewable fuel standard to the new regenerative biofuels feedstock rule that we just finalized in June, to continuing to fight for year-round E15. This is without a doubt the most biofuels administration, pro-biofuels administration in our nation's history. And I want to, before I turn it over to your incredible Congressman, Zach Nunn, who was a leader on the effort for the Working Families Tax Cuts Act, supported by the entire Iowa delegation, delivering historic wins for rural America, including increasing reference prices for the first time in over a decade, adding up to 30 million base acres for farm safety net programs, the first time in decades, improving crop insurance by enhancing coverage and lowering premiums, and saving more than 2 million family farms from the death tax. Of course, there is so much more we could talk about on that Working Families Tax Cut Act, but I'll finish there with it was the largest investment in rural America in history with over $250 billion. And the reason this is important, it stands alone as an important point, but I like to say, and I think this is important to note, that bill was focused on, first and foremost, the largest tax cut in American history and right-sizing government, i.e. shrinking government, the largest deregulatory bill in American history. But when you think about it, it was also the largest investment spending in American history in rural America. I think you can hopefully begin to understand the priorities of this administration. Food security is national security. We have talked about that nonstop over the last 18 months. And we will continue to battle for that every single day. At the end of the day, it is the greatest honor to battle for those men and women who feed and fuel and clothe our country and, frankly, the world. And that if we don't get this right, we will lose not just our farmers and ranchers, but we will lose freedom as we know it. Again, one of the greatest patriots and warriors on the field is your Congressman, Zach Nunn. Zach, what a joy to be back with you in this beautiful state. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate it. Well, hey, Brooke Rollins, thank you so much. As our Secretary of Ag, you are still that barrel racing cowgirl who came here from day one. As soon as you got sworn in as Secretary of Ag, you were right here in Iowa. You prioritized, and you got the belt buckle to prove it. Not only show and steer, but doing what Iowa does so well, helping to feed and fuel the world. #1 in corn, right up there in soybean. #1 in hogs, egg layers, ranchers. This is what America does so well. We're doing it here in the United States with Americans to help feed the entire country and help fuel the entire world. This is what we talk about when we talk about national security being a homegrown solution. And you've helped us not only move forward a farm bill this year, you helped us move forward biofuels in a really meaningful way. Year-round nationwide E15 is something a lot of people have talked about for decades. And this woman and our president and our farmers got it done in the House. That means $20 billion of economic growth come right back to our row crop farmers. But more importantly, it means the consumers, whether you're filling up an F-150 or whether you're filling up a minivan, can get gas 50 cents cheaper per gallon. And Madam Secretary, it also means we're not buying it from Russia or Iran or some other country. We're making it right here in the United States. Guys, what our Secretary has done has helped us move forward, and we talked about it today, the advancement of how ag can really help grow this nation's future. The economic growth and everything we've been able to do through our rural housing bill, by getting it out of places like HUD and putting it under USDA, is revolutionizing making sure the family farm, all 87,000 of them right here in Iowa, not only get to be successful on the farm, but the hometown, the main street. The growth in our communities are a direct result of good policies being driven by this administration. I've been privileged to get to lead a lot of them, including our rural housing bill that was able to be passed into law this year. In total, we got more provisions in this year's farm bill than any other member of Congress. And that's because I get to fight, but most importantly, it's because of the men and women behind me who have given us the ideas. What we do here in Iowa truly can be a gold standard. And Madam Secretary, I'm not just talking about the gold color of our corn, I'm talking about proven examples of what we've been able to do. So I want to say thank you for coming back to Iowa. I think you get a 2-week break and then you're right back here for the Progress Show. But most importantly, for the Iowans who have given us the firepower to do it, Iowa gets to deliver, America gets to deliver, and we get to do this for the entire world. Thank you for being out here, Madam Secretary.
Well said. Very beautifully said. Beautifully said. We do Mike, and then we'll go to you, Scott. Very quickly, your Ag Secretary I've worked with now for a very only a year and a half, but seems like our entire life. He does such a wonderful job representing Iowa around the country, not just here. Mike Nagg.
Thank you so much. Well, Secretary, thank you, and welcome back to Iowa again and again, and we'll look forward to having you back for Farm Progress Show. And mostly, I just want to thank you for taking the time. You travel extensively to listen to the American farmer. You have taken the time to meet with Iowa farmers in Washington, in Iowa, and I appreciate the direct attention that you are paying to so many of the critical issues that are facing our farm community. Certainly profitability is under pressure. And we know that there's no one easy solution to that. We have to fight for markets wherever they are locally, getting local foods into schools, fighting domestically for biofuels, year-round access to E15, or for fair access to markets all around the world. We've got to drive down input prices. Again, your direct focus on the fertilizer issues around supply chains and competition, critically important issues, and then bringing certainty when it comes to policy. Things like passing a farm bill, things like securing year-round nationwide access to E15. Not easily done, needs a constant focus, and your work around foreign animal disease prevention and response and preparedness, New World screwworm in particular. Again, your direct involvement, but a tremendous team at USDA leading the charge. Thanks for keeping America's farmers first. And as we celebrate America 250, driving home the idea that you cannot have this country's exceptional situation, you cannot have who we are as a country if you do not first have food and agriculture security. It has been true for 250 years. It'll be true for the next 250 years. Thanks for fighting for our farmers.
So well said. Thank you, Secretary Neg. Speaking of the great USDA team, before I turn it over to our Undersecretary, Dr. Scott Hutchins, who led the roundtable today, I want to point out that we were able to swear in our final Undersecretary, the one and only Glenn Smith, Iowa's own, our Undersecretary for Rural Development. And so, Glenn, what a joy to be here with you and your beautiful family. Welcome to the team officially. Thank you. Good to have you. Dr. Hutchins.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be back in Iowa. I have the great honor of receiving a degree just north of here at Iowa State University, so I consider myself a cyclone. So I'm pleased to be here as well. And in terms of the breadth and the depth of the things that the Secretary works on, I believe, if I'm counting right today, we were on a New World screwworm call together. Yes, we were on a food affordability together, and then we just did a roundtable. So the breadth and the expectation for impact is huge in this administration. So what does data modernization mean, and in what context? Well, in this context, we're talking about being able to provide farmers and the farming community good, accurate, and reliable data in terms of what's happening on the ground with regard to planted acres, in regard to production, yield, and the rest of it. Those data matter so much, and they matter for a lot of reasons. One, as I just indicated, farmers need that information in order to make good, smart decisions. But they also are very critical in a number of the USDA programs that are implemented across the Farm Service Agency, even rural development under Secretary Smith, and all kinds of areas of focus. So it's important that we build and strengthen the trust that we have with farmers to make sure they contribute to these data through the surveys, through the one farmer, one file process, and other areas. But specifically, when we talk about data modernization, our goals, we have 4 goals that we're going to build themes around and give some details on here in a couple of weeks. One is to modernize reporting. There's still a lot of paper surveys used. We look to reduce producer burden in this process, to make the surveys easy, to digitize where we can, to use the modern digital tools that are available to us. We also must enhance acreage and yield estimation so that we have the confidence we need in that. What's exciting is that we have tools today that we didn't have 3 years ago. We have satellite imagery, we have geospatial analysis, we have analytics, artificial intelligence. We have data from Precision Ag, a number of on-farm harvesting measurement tools, and so forth and so on. So all of these things will be in play in order to help us get a better fix on integrating and enhancing acreage and yield estimation. The third is to integrate data and technology platforms. We have made a great investment, and feedback has been phenomenal on the one farmer, one file. So we want to leverage the Farm Service Agency, the Risk Management Agency, and the things that they do so well every day, and able to use that so farmers don't have to continually input the same kind of information. And we can, at that point in time, investigate what is the best sequence and cadence for the reports and the information. But our ultimate goal is to expand and build trust within the farming community that these data and these reports are really accurate in providing the kind of information they need to make good decisions, and the kind of information USDA needs to make good decisions at all. So, what we will do is continue to focus on building that kind of trust, doing the kind of things that build accuracy, consistency, and transparency. Of course, we'll never alter the data in any way for any purpose or any market impact, and we also will never speculate on what the data says beyond what the data actually says. And in that regard, that provides us the most credible, the opportunity, the continued opportunity to be the most credible provider of data in the United States. And we want USDA to continue to be and expand that gold standard moniker. So it's a pleasure to be able to lead this on behalf of USDA across multiple agencies. And stay tuned, we have a lot of great things to share.
Thank you. Thank you. I can take this out. I want to introduce Kip Tom, who I just saw standing. Should be back here, but love you, Kip. Great farmer, 5th or 6th generation, who as of Monday officially will be helping run this effort. A former undersecretary from USDA from the first Trump administration. It's an honor to work with you, Kip. Thank you. We'll take some questions, y'all. Yeah, thank you. Round of applause for Kip. Okay, who's up? And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself too. And if anyone's welcome to join in the fun. And you can ask anybody a question. Doesn't just have to be me.
Thank you for the time. Brent Barnett with the Brownfield Ag News Network. Secretary, I want to ask you about the president's announcement on beef imports. How do you respond to concerns from some cattle groups that the policy could slow domestic herd expansion at a time when producers have stronger cattle prices?
I had a feeling that was going to come up today. And I actually welcome the conversation and the opportunity to talk about it. It is a really challenging time in the farm economy. It is a challenging time for American agriculture. We have done hundreds of these roundtables with farmers and ranchers around the country, and they always point back to the dream isn't just to feed and fuel America, it is to pass the farm or the ranch along. But without certainty and without profitability, Secretary Nagg mentioned that today, we may not have the American dream as we know it. Because if we can't feed and fuel and clothe ourselves, we lose our country. So first and foremost, I want to say a couple things about the announcement this morning. Number one, I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a president that has been more supportive of agriculture and farmers and ranchers than President Trump. If you think about when we walked in the door 18 months ago, there had not been one new trade deal in 4 years. We had gone from an agricultural trade surplus of $8 billion to a deficit in ag of $50 billion. The average input on the American farm had gone up 40%, whether that is fuel, fertilizers, seed, labor, interest rates, equipment. It was just unsustainable. And you could go on down the line. The regulatory regime that was implemented, we had a USDA that I walked into that was more focused on DEI than supporting farmers. And President Trump over the last 18 months with his leadership, including Zach, the One Big Beautiful Bill, where the previous administration couldn't get a farm bill passed, and we got reference prices, pretty much the bulk of what would have been in a farm bill. We still need to do one, but we got a lot of it done. So I don't know that there has been a president who has been more supportive of agriculture and farming and ranching than President Trump has. That's the first thing I think is important to say. The second part I want to say about this is this. The cost of food in the last administration increased up to 25% over 4 years. So the average American family beginning in 2021, began to see their food and grocery bill increase. And over 4 years, it was 25%. In the last 18 months under President Trump, we've been at about 3%, which is historically aligned. But what you're looking at is an unprecedented historical moment where that 25% under the last administration, we're still trying to dig out from under. And the importance of families being able to put really good food on the table is at a good value, is a top concern for President Trump, and it has been for a really long time. And so the opportunity in a very short period of time, I think the announcement this morning said just the next 90 days, we're going to move in about 300,000 metric tons of just ground beef from other countries so that we can get a 25% decrease for families, usually lower income families rely on ground beef. Then he wanted to make that move for the American consumer. That's the second thing. The third thing is this. there is no question that, and some of them standing behind me, some cattle guys, our ranchers, that this is I don't want to say unexpected, because I think the president's been talking about it for a long time, but it did come at a time where I think a lot of people weren't prepared for it. But what I want to add is a little bit of context. We closed the ports because of the New World screwworm 14 months ago. And that was my decision with the president's backing. I had a lot of people pushing against that month after month after month. You know, you're keeping a lot of cattle out of America. It's driving the cost up for beef. And my response to that was, well, yes, but if we don't protect our herd, things are going to get a lot worse, and we're going to lose a lot more ranchers. And so over that 14 months, the number is just over 1 million head did not cross into America. That 1 million plus heads stayed south of the border. Not one crossed through one port as we were preparing. And I think we've managed, there's only 3 active cases of New World screwworm after 2.5 months in America. It's a great success story. We're not done yet, but we're close. And so I stand by those 14 months. But what that 300,000 metric tons represents that the president announced this morning is about 500,000 head of cattle. So we're still less 500,000 head of cattle today, plus, than we would have been if we'd kept the ports open. And this is all lean, right? So it's not the really good cuts that America is so good for. My commitment is this: I will never stop battling for our farmers and our ranchers and ensuring that our president fully has every data and detail that he needs to understand, and he does understand. Unless we rebuild our beef herd, we will become more and more reliant on foreign countries to feed and fuel ourselves. And that is, as I've mentioned, that is an absolute no-go as we're working to bring all of this back to America. So all of this is in balance. I, of course, am the President, Secretary of Agriculture. He hears from me a lot on all of these issues. But once a decision is made, I understand the decision and defend the decision and look forward to continuing to rebuild the herd, but making sure that we can continue to provide great America. I'm sorry this is so long, but I feel the need to explain. This is the first time I've been on record to be able to explain this, to ensure that we're able to provide. And then the final piece of this I'll say, and this is amazing news for our ranchers and our beef producers and really all of our protein producers, that we're having a renaissance of protein in America. In the last year, we've seen a 10% increase in the purchase, even with the prices, which would tell you that people are willing to pay these prices for great American beef and for proteins to put on their plate. And with Make America Healthy Again, with our new dietary guidelines, on Monday, I'll be back in D.C. with Secretary Bobby Kennedy. We're announcing a big new school lunch rule procurement program that I don't want to, get ahead of the announcement Monday, but that's going to put even more emphasis on schools putting proteins on the plates of our kiddos and supporting that in a big way. That the future for American ranchers and for beef has never been brighter. So thank you for the opportunity to expand on that.
Thank you.
You want to add that? Yeah,
Hey,
please.
I want to thank the Secretary for coming out here. I want to say 2 things on this. First and foremost, the President is right. We want to make sure that people can afford to eat, particularly for families who absolutely need it. It's one of the things you've championed here. But we don't do it on the backs of our cattlemen. And I am so proud the Secretary came out and heard from it firsthand that we don't cut our own beef production. Now, if you want to get this fixed long term, we got to go after getting the Farm Bill passed. And here's the reality. We have the ability to roll back the red tape. We have the ability to help grow our domestic herd. We have the ability to help our cattlemen and feed families in this country right now. But challengingly, so the Senate just left Washington, and too many Democrats voted against moving a Farm Bill forward. So if we want to be able to help our hometown guys and still be able to feed folks, let's move that bill forward this September, and let's be able to help make sure that we have lower costs for folks who want to be able to afford not only ground beef and protein, but we keep our domestic capability successful. That's how we're going to move forward. Thank you, Secretary.
Beautifully said. Thank you. All right. Anything other than beef? Let's answer any more questions. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I apologize, Secretary Rollins. I do have another beef question
Okay,
for
go
you,
ahead,
but I
go
appreciate you being here at the Iowa State Fair to visit with us. So the national cattle herd is at its lowest point in 75 years, as you alluded to. A lot of producers are maybe still a little confused as to how bringing in these 300,000 metric tons will exactly allow them to rebuild the cattle herd. So I guess for that point of it, How will this not only allow them to rebuild the cattle herd, but maybe incentivize them to do so as well?
Well, and I think in my long dissertation, I mentioned this, but I'll make it very tight this time. We closed the ports 14 months ago. About a million one head have been kept out of America because of New World screwworm. We're reopening a port on Monday in Arizona. So you'll begin to see a slow trickle. It'll build up over the coming months. But at the end of the day, what the president announced this morning is really represents just about half of what would have already been here on the lean side, which is the ground beef, what we grind up. So for the long term, there really should not be any big challenges as we continue to build the herd. And last week, I think maybe the week before, was the first good sign in more than a decade. We had an increase in heifer retention. We had bigger numbers in our feedlots. So we're beginning to see, and we had bigger numbers being kept back actually on our feeder side. So we're beginning to see some real, I think, movement in that direction. And as the USDA and the president, we're changing WOTUS, right? The waters of the USA. We're lifting regulations off of our ranchers and farmers. We're opening up 5 million acres in grazing land. We're doing Product of the USA, which is a voluntary label, but will again be able to value add to our great American beef. And again, 10% increase year over year in the last year or so on the purchasing of fresh food and the purchasing of beef. So it will only go up from here.
Danelle Eller from the Des Moines Register. I'm going to piggyback on their questions and ask, so economists after economists say these small amounts or these amounts of imports, the lean trimmings, aren't really going to lower prices for consumers. So is it kind of a false assumption that consumers are going to benefit from this?
Well, we're already seeing the cost of ground beef go down. Actually, last 2 weeks ago, we had a 1.7% decrease, which was the largest decrease since 2020 on ground beef. So we're already making some progress in that direction. The president, who I have full faith in, I actually work for him. I'm in his cabinet. I've been next to him for almost 10 years. I trust his judgment, and I have not spoken to him directly about the announcement yet, but what I understand in talking to the teams that were part of it, that he mentioned this, he secured a deal of 25% discount on a pound of ground beef. And so I don't know all the details of that yet. Our trade rep is building that out right now through an executive order. So we'll hear more about that in the next few weeks. But I believe the answer to be yes. We'll see once the agreement is implemented what that looks like moving forward.
All right, we'll do our last question.
Dwayne Murley with The Big Show, and thank you, Secretary, for the opportunity. Can you share what you answered a lot of the other questions I had written down, but can you talk about what you discussed inside of the roundtable with data centers when it comes to growth of AI and cloud service and high performance computing at this time?
Sure. We didn't actually talk about data centers, but I'm happy to answer that question. But it's a good point, and what your question sort of implies is that as all of America, right, is moving towards more data, heavier data, more energy needed, as we're in a battle with China right now on AI that we have to win. I mean, I spend most of my time talking about farm security is national security, but this is another big, massive national security issue. What my response on this has been is I have been in the Oval Office with the president. I've been in these meetings and a lot of discussions. We brought John Rich on, the country music singer, to really work alongside us. My priority is private property rights and protecting farms and ranches, and we've worked really hard on that in the last 18 months. But I don't think that's mutually exclusive. I don't think it's a binary choice that you have to choose one over the other. What I do think is that states and government officials and the private sector in the data center arena have got to be more intentional. They have to move a little bit slower, and that we can't sacrifice our farms and our ranches, but even rural America just in writ large, to this idea of these massive data centers. So there's a way to navigate it to do both. Elon Musk, who I've worked with now for about 2 years, he's got an idea of space, and we all think that might be a little crazy, but it is Elon Musk, and he can seemingly get a lot of things accomplished that no one thought was possible. We also live in a country where we're blessed with a lot of desert land and land that we don't use for things like farming and ranching. So I think this administration, working alongside our states and our governors and our elected officials like Mike Naig and others are very, very in tune with what needs to happen to make sure that we are protecting those who are feeding and fueling and clothing us. So thank you so much. God bless our farmers and ranchers. So grateful to all of you. And thank you, Press, for letting me answer a couple questions. And thank you, Iowa State Fair. It's so great to be back. Thank you, everybody.